I like this one. Will the Ravens make the playoffs?
So I recently, I think, mentioned this last time, but honestly, looking at their schedule and looking at how the AFC conference is now, I don't think they'll make the
Me
playoffs.
neither.
Especially, I know there's the game going on right now, Wednesday afternoon football. Um, but will they win this one? I don't know. I've been reading the comments a little bit. RG3 ain't doing too hot. And what would that would put them at 6-5 then? I believe they're 6-4 right now.
6-5, and you have Cleveland that's 8-3. You have Miami that's 7-5, and then you have Oakland that's 7-5. So they'll be right there.
They do have the tiebreaker over the Browns if the Browns implode, which is, I mean, you never want to bet your money on the Browns, even for the last 20 years. But I don't think they will. And it's kind of sad because they were heralded as the top team coming into this year. As the Chief, probably, but Colin Cowherd predicted him 16-0. They added Calais Campbell, they got Ngakoue, they added all these guys, but still.
So I actually misspoke. The Browns are Browns are 8-3. The Dolphins are 7-4. Indianapolis is 7-4, and then you got Oakland and Baltimore at 6-5. I'm gonna say no. I don't think they're gonna make the playoffs. I think their losing schedule is a little difficult. I just think with all this COVID and people coming in and out, I think it's kind of just washed their season at this point. It's going to be tough for them to rally and make a run. Mm-hmm. Their defense is still really good. Their team's still really good. Lamar's still really good. John Harbaugh's still really good. But it's just unfortunate how it worked out for them.
Mm-hmm. Did you want to do the Celtics question?
Sure.
All right. So you can go first on this. What do you think of the Celtics? Do you think they're championship caliber or they still need to add stuff?
I don't think there's championship caliber, and it's not because I think Brad Stevens is the top 5 coach in the NBA. I think that Jason Tatum is an upcoming superstar. I love Jaylen Brown. I didn't know why he wasn't given any all-defensive team votes last year. What he did to Pascal Siakam last year in the playoffs just tells you what a good defensive player he is. I think that Marcus Smart is an excellent defensive player. But for me, I'm just not a big Kemba Walker fan. I didn't like the contract that they gave to Kemba Walker, and ultimately, I don't think they have enough depth around him. For me, when I watch them play basketball, it always feels like their offense doesn't run smoothly with Kemba Walker as their primary ball handler, and I feel like he doesn't do enough to make plays for others. For me, it felt like Gordon Hayward and Marcus Smart did a better job of establishing others within their offense. And then the other problem is that Kemba is just such a defensive liability. Whenever you get deep in the playoffs, people are just going to expose Kemba Walker in the playoffs. I think that's ultimately what's holding them back. I'm excited to see how they pivot because to me the pivot right now is you've paid giant contracts now to both Jason Tatum and Jaylen Brown. Try and create a roster filled with depth around those two because those are your stars, not Kemba Walker. Moving off Gordon Hayward was fine, but we'll see.
Yeah, I think getting rid of Gordon Hayward was just apparently they were in consideration of offering him over $20 million, which he keeps getting paid. So apparently teams really like his potential in the future, even with the injuries that have occurred to him. I'm with you on Kemba Walker. They're paying him a lot of money to be the guy, to be the point guard of the Boston Celtics. And I feel like he's more of a Charlotte guy in a smaller city who people will glorify, but I feel like he's not, maybe the lights aren't bright enough. I don't know if that's the right term, but I don't think he's a top 5 point guard, and they're paying him to be, and he's not good enough in the playoffs. And I think that showed against the Raptors. He was shooting horribly.
Yeah.
You're paying this man a lot of money. I don't know his exact contract, but it's
not too bad actually. They have him just under the max. I think it's like the max. I think they got him for like a few $1 million below the max. But the problem with that is that he was a starter in the All-Star game, which to me was just wild. How Kemba Walker, and I love Ice Trae, but how they both were the starting point guards for the East is just mind-blowing to me.
Mm-hmm.
But he's not a two-way player. He's not a particularly great distributor in terms of just running your offense like a Kyle Lowry. He's not a great, efficient offensive scorer, not at the level of Kyrie, definitely, though he brings a better personality balance to their
Leader.
team. I just think that they need to just start and driving volume with Jason Tatum and Jaylen Brown because that their future is in both of their hands.
Yeah, I'm with you. Any other questions you want?
Yeah, there's a lot of good ones.
That was a good question though from Jaeger.
So, you want to do this one real quick?
I think if the 49ers or if the Cardinals lose, yeah, the Niners will have a better chance because that's one of their competitions. So in a nutshell, yes. But for the Niners, for me, even if they make the playoffs, I honestly think they'll get smacked. I don't think they could maybe win one playoff game. If they do make the playoffs, I still think their team is too injury riddled to make a push for the Super Bowl. I think they'd be better off not making the playoffs, getting a better pick. I mean, you can make the argument that it's bad for culture, like instilling a losing culture and whatnot, which is it is a fair point. I can totally see that. But if they make the playoffs, I don't really think they'll do anything.
To me, the Niners this year with the Steelers from last year, right? Like there was a point last year when the Steelers, I think, were 7-4, 7-5, and then their schedule and Duck Hodges and Mason Rudolph caught up to them, and they finished 8-8. The Niners, they seem to pull out every time we write them off. They seem to pull out this brilliant win that says, "Oh, they can do it, they can do it." The consistent trend this season is that they lose everybody versus the Jets, great win versus the Giants, meltdown versus Philly, meltdown versus Miami. Then they come back, rally. They beat the Rams on Sunday night. They beat New England. Rough. Everybody's like, they're going to beat Seattle. This is the Niners team that's coming. Rough game versus Seattle. Then they lose everybody. Rough game versus Green Bay. And then their defense plays out of their mind versus the Saints. And, some things hold them back. And they lose by a considerable amount, even though it was a close game. So I'm not going to even – to answer your question, if the Cardinals – lose this week, it would help the Niners technically on paper, but the Niners still have a lot of work to do themselves. I want to see if they can string together some consistency. We shall see because they're going through a lot between having to move to Arizona and all of that. If Kyle Shanahan gets this team to 8-8, even 7-9, it would be Coach of the Year worthy, in my opinion. You want to do this one?
Yeah. That is a good question because for me, Dark Horse would be a team no one really thinks can pull it off or not many people are talking about. So in the AFC, I would say Titans just because they did. I know that's probably your team and you're a big fan of them, but considering they went there last year and they won a couple of really tough road playoff games in Foxborough and then in I'm not sure what the Ravens stadium is, but they won against the Ravens.
Maryland, Baltimore.
Yes, they won in Baltimore. And I think that just that experience, especially with Vrabel, will be really, really solid for them in pushing for the playoffs this year and then in the playoffs. I do think they will make it as a wild card, so they're going to be a road team again. But I think they could get there, and Derrick Henry in the winter, and you don't want to tackle that man. You saw what happened last year against that Ravens team. Earl Thomas was talking. He's like, "Oh, we're ready for him," and then get to the playoffs, and Derrick Henry was stiff arming him multiple times on the same run. So he's a different animal in the playoffs.
Yeah, that's right on. I would go with the Tennessee Titans too. They have a clear identity on how they want to play football, and that's really important. If you know that you're going to be a run-first team and you're going to build your team game off the run game, you're going to take that and you're going to do that wherever you go, which means that, it's not going to be a game plan thing where they come in and they just get totally beat down by a team. You're going to beat the Titans at their best because they know how they're going to play football. It's very simple. It's actually not that simple. They have a pretty complex offense, but their identity is simple. It starts with Derrick Henry and riffs off of that. Ryan Tannehill was a really good quarterback, so we'll see. There's quite a few good ones. Let's do this one on the NBA.
That's a good question. So, I think
you want me to go? Because I got it right now.
Yeah, you can go if you have them right off the top of your head for sure.
Lakers, Bucks, Clippers, Nuggets, Nets.
I'm with Lakers. I'm with you on that one. Same with Clippers. Those LA teams are amazing. I really like the Nuggets again too.
And then
Same.
I had go ahead, my fault.
One team that I would remove from yours is the Nets. I think they'll implode a little bit. I think having two people who just hate the media is going to be a problem. And Kyrie to the media, I mean, let's put it this way: Kyrie believes the Earth is flat. He ain't the brightest. He's not the brightest guy. And KD, he definitely is hated by the media, and he kind of has that snarky attitude, I would say, towards the media. So we'll see how they do. And also with Steve Nash, I think him and D'Antoni, because D'Antoni's a part of the staff too. I think that'll be very interesting to see. But are they going to boss around Steve Nash? Because I mean, they played in the league at the same time with him, although they were young. So it'll be really, really interesting to see. Don't get me wrong; they have the potential to go all the way. Because having KD and Kyrie is just nuts. Is KD gonna recover from his injury though? I mean, he's over 30. He just had an Achilles injury. That's big. But I could very well be wrong. I just think they'll implode at some point in the playoffs with the locker room issues.
So who would you replace them with? I got two teams. One is obviously Miami, right? They're going to play even better in their system over the older. And then my other team is Dallas. I think this is the year Luka Doncic becomes the MVP of basketball.
I think I'm with you on Bucks too. I think they'll be, in the race there. I think the Heat, this is kind of something that doesn't get talked about enough. So they have a pretty inexperienced team, sans Jimmy, right? I think the bubble was a perfect environment for them. Not having to go and play away games for young players is pretty big because when you get into those late game moments and it's really tense and you're in an away game, I think that is an aspect that the bubble wasn't able to replicate. And their team is younger. They have Hero, they have Robinson, Bam's on the younger side of things. Jimmy's kind of the only guy, and Dragic, who have really been in the playoffs numerous times. So I think that's going to hurt them. And I'm with you on the Mavs. I think Doncic is fantastic. And their team improved this offseason, I believe. So I think they'll be top five NBA team.
So I actually agree with what you said on the Heat too. Mm-hmm. I think that they're still going to be good enough to be around the top teams in the NBA.
Yeah.
It's not going to be like last year's playoffs. I thought a lot of Tyler Hero's production, like not that he wouldn't have been good in normal playoffs. I thought he was enhanced by the bubble. It's totally different taking that flight and playing every 2 games and going to Boston, and playing as we call it in the Garden. The God in Boston barely loses there.
They're just lucky it's not the Mecca. They're lucky it's not the Knicks.
Yeah, true.
That'd be tough.
For Boston, it's an automatic 3 wins there, so we'll see. But I do like that point. This is about our guy, Justin Herbert.
Yeah, that's a good question. And I do think they have a Super Bowl window. So my thing with rookie quarterback contracts is it can't just be any rookie quarterback. Like they actually have to be good. You can't just I think Trubisky, Jake Locker, Ponder, dudes that have just not been good quarterbacks. And you're like, oh, but rookie contracts, you can load up the team. You can have a great team, and if your quarterback's that bad, you're not getting anywhere. But I think Herbert is really, really good. And so the way the rookie contract works is you get 4 years, and then you get a team option, which is that 5th year it's still cheaper. It's very well below market value. I think Baker's is like $10 million or something like that. So they have 4 years to just build a super team pretty much. And accumulate as much talent as they can before they start paying Herbert a ton of money. You saw the Ravens do it with Lamar, getting Campbell, trading for Ngakoue. So that's, if you want an example of what they should do, it's look at the Ravens. So I do think they have a good window.
Yeah, I agree. Their roster is still loaded. Hopefully their injury luck is better. They have a top 5 offense and a top 10 defense. They should not be this bad. I love Anthony Lynn. I cheer for the guy. It's not that I love him particularly as a coach, but I watch a little bit of Hard Knocks. He feels so genuine, kind of guy you want to root for Fortunately, I think he's in over his head. Their in-game management is just a mess. I
They're
think that's the
great.
number one requirement for a head coach before offensive and defensive acumen. Can you manage the entire game in-game? That's why a guy like John Harbaugh, who's a special teams coordinator, is so successful as a head coach. They have a phenomenal plan on this team. We want to attack this way on offense, this way on defense, and this is how we're going to play the entire game and attempt to play the entire game. That's key. Got to manage the clock and all of those things. But yeah, I do think that this could be a big window. We'll see if they even let him go. The ownership with the Chargers is a little bit of an issue, but
Mm-hmm.
they absolutely got a quarterback. And if anybody saw the Joey Bosa mic'd up video, their defense is serious.
Yeah, they do have talent now. They need to improve on it though, for sure.
Yeah, there were a few more good ones. Let me find them. There was one more, a couple more actually. This guy wants to know if the Warriors should trade Draymond Green.
So should they trade Draymond Green if he does not prove anything? So if by not prove anything, I think that can be taken a couple ways. Does he show that he's regressing a little bit from his former when they were, they had the big run? When he's not playing at that level, but he's still an above average player, role player? Or is he just looking like he's an absolute scrub, like Stephen A. Smith describing Kwame Brown? Is he that level? Then yeah, they should trade him. I don't know what he wouldn't have any value. I think he's such an integral part of that Warriors team, and if they're a team that I think they'll make the playoffs. I'm pretty certain they will make the playoffs if Steph is healthy. I don't think they'll trade him. I don't know what they would even like. They'd probably have to trade picks to get him off the team if he's playing that bad, right? And at that point, I just wouldn't think it'd be worth it to get rid of him. And I know as teams kind of fizzle out, I think of the Lakers. I know Draymond's not as good as Kobe was, but remember when they just gave Kobe that huge contract, kind of like a farewell, like thanks for all your years of service? I think the Warriors would consider doing that with Draymond, or at least keeping him around just to mentor the young guys. So I just cannot picture him in another jersey, but Tom Brady did it, so it happens, right?
So to me, Draymond Green is one of the simplest players in the NBA. He's very good at playing for the Golden State Warriors. The way they play basketball, it highlights all his great skills, his incredible IQ, his defensive versatility, his ability to pass the basketball. So all of those things. In long story short, no, I don't think they should trade him. And if they do have to trade him, it's going to end up being a salary dump, which means that they're not going to really get equal value of what he means to
They're
them.
getting rid of assets, right?
So yeah, I don't think he's like I think Warriors fans often think that they have the assets right now to pursue a lot of different players and teams and stuff. While they have excellent players in Steph Curry and unfortunately what happened to Klay Thompson be so excellent, I think in terms of assets, they're kind of locked up. They have a couple picks here and there, but that's only one or two picks. And these contracts are a little bit rough. They still have an excellent team. I agree with you. They should make the playoffs as long as Steph Curry is healthy. So yeah, I don't see any reason to trade him out here. Let's just comment on this real quick. No, he can't turn Detroit around. I was very upset to see that my Pistons signed him. It's unfortunate. We'll see if he actually becomes something.
I think the best thing that Jello can bring to the team would be the motivation for the Pistons to trade for LaMelo and maybe Lonzo, maybe get all three of the Ball brothers on the same team. That would probably drive up attendance for the Pistons if that's what their owner was looking for. That'd probably be the best case scenario. Or he would just be a good person for them tanking, like a good tank commander. Will he even make the roster and play? I don't know. That's a whole other question, but I don't think it matters at all. It's pretty irrelevant.
You got one for this?
Yeah. I think one team for certain that's gonna turn it around will be the Bengals. I think Burrow is legit. I think them getting a top pick this year is really gonna help them get another person towards their team. Will they be first? No, but will I think they'll probably make the playoffs? They have a really tough division, but I think they're going to turn it around, and they won't be a bottom 10 team.
So 2 weeks ago, before the Burrow injury, I would have also said the Bengals. The team I'm going to say is also a team I've picked to win their division this year, but I think they're going to go and be one of the better teams in the NFC. That's the New York Giants. I like what they're doing. I like what Joe Judge is doing. Maybe get a couple more offensive linemen. Saquon Barkley comes back, a couple more weapons for Daniel Jones, and hopefully he continues on this trend of protecting the football better. And I think they could have a really good team. Their defense is really good. And then worst to first, the New Orleans Saints is the easy answer.
Yeah.
Their cap room and their just veteran roster is just making it seem like even they know that it's a last year hurrah for them.
It's a win now team. I think they're well over the cap, and I know that's just a number. It's, for me, the salary cap's kind of an almost imaginary because it's all just accounting tricks and just playing with it to move money around. But like Drew Brees is on his last leg, I believe, and he gone soon.
Yeah, I'm 20. I'm gonna be 21 in like 12 days. But yeah, I don't know. I don't know where you get the 25 or 15. To me, I always look the same. But yeah, I'm 20. Blake is 21, so he's a bit more legal than me.
Yep. Was there any other? We could probably do like one more question.
Yeah, maybe one or two. This guy's been asking it a couple of times, so Caleb, I got you. I do think that, go ahead.
I was gonna say no. I think the AFC. It's pretty clear cut that the Steelers and Chiefs are the two best teams in the league, and I think they're kind of in the tier of their own. I think the NFC teams all have just glaring issues where you can look at them and say, this is a big problem. Maybe not the Saints. You could maybe throw them in that top tier, but it's tough for me to trust Easy Breezy down in New Orleans. And I just think the AFC is just a whole heck of a lot better. I don't think there's really any NFC team that matches up well against them either.
Yeah, I feel the same way. You know, the Saints are the one team to me that feels like they got the complete roster to do it, but I don't know. Again, we've kind of outlined the strengths and weaknesses. I felt like for both the Steelers and Chiefs, we were reaching for weaknesses. So,
and we're going to be releasing some of those clips just on specifics for the team, so that way you don't have to search through the this live stream to find them. So, like in the next couple of days, if you want to like look at our specific reasoning for each team, the top 4 contenders or who we believe are the top 4 contenders, then go ahead.
All right, we'll do 2 more questions. My man Gavin wants us to answer this one, I think, from DNMH. Is this the one you want, Gavin? Because it's the Bengals. The Niners' offensive line has moments of bad, but I think people are really overblowing how bad it is. It's a bad offensive line, but it's nowhere near as bad as Cincinnati. I talked about it. I think Grant and I got in a bit of an argument about it, but there's bad offensive line play across the NFL. It's all bad. Teams are getting whooped. Like the Niners are not the anomaly; they're the normal. So I do think that the Bengals offensive line is much worse.
I'm with you on that. I think the Niners, and they do a good job of sometimes masking those with being able to get the ball to Debo and Kittle and Ayuk in space quickly, and that can kind of slow down the pass rush using their speed to that advantage. And the Bengals don't have that. They have a more typical drop back, and we have Higgins, we have Boyd, or more typical.
We have Burrow.
Yeah, and Burrow he's getting killed back there. We've said every single episode. I think they did get Jonah Williams in the draft a couple of years ago, and he was out his rookie year. But besides that, they really haven't put that much capital into their team, and they need to start doing it. I hope they either them or the Chargers get the Oregon tackle Sewell, I think his name is, but he's supposed to be a generational tackle. And so hoping one of those teams can pick him up and protect these young quarterbacks so we can see their careers flourish.
So, yeah, and two more things with that. One, they had games where they started guys off the street because they had injuries and didn't have replacements. So it's not been anywhere close to as bad for the Niners. Good quarterback play and movement from your quarterback can help mask an offensive line. Joe Burrow did it all year. Justin Herbert's doing it. A lot of guys are doing it. Russell Wilson has done it for years. Kyler Murray has been doing it.
But those guys,
Mahomes, I mean, we talked about how the Chiefs' offensive line isn't playing that great, so there's two to it. And number two, the Bengals' O-line can't run block. The 49ers' O-line can still run block, so it's absolutely the thing.
Trent Williams is also way better than any lineman the Bengals have.
Generally, he's one of once in a lifetime. So we'll take a couple more. Blake, you want to start off?
Yeah, so I go to the University of Iowa, and I'm studying accounting, and I'm a junior, and that's pretty much it. Packers fan. You can go, Vish. I don't know if you want any more detail than that.
Yeah, so I'll answer 2 and 1. No, I'm not from India. I'm born and brought up in Chicago and around Chicago. And yeah, I'm a computer science major. I'm a junior in college. That's about it. But yeah, we have finals coming up, so the content is going to be a little less consistent the next 2 weeks. But we'll ramp it up again once winter breaks start and do a couple more lives.
Any other questions? Sorry to see outsiders. I just want to highlight this. Go to FanDuel. I'm a supporter of FanDuel, and if you want good bets, check out the betting guides we have. So we talk about best bets, games to stay away from, some locks, all that good stuff.
Yeah.